Now we proceed to the next session, Tech for Good. Can innovations in new age technologies like mobility, artificial intelligence, IoT help solve SDGs? So it's widely agreed on that technology can be a catalyst for social impact. Innovative use of technology is creating deep impact in all critical areas of development, whether it's healthcare or education or women's safety. NGOs and other social enterprises are creating and implementing effective solutions that leverage technology to reach unreached areas and unreached communities. This session will have social innovators from organizations that are fostering the ecosystem for hashtag Tech for Good and aiding the creation and of transformative solutions. So to start the session, I'd like to call upon our moderator, Amit Anthony Alex. Please come on. India's country director and Upaya Social Ventures. And call upon the speakers Abhinav Sinha, co-founder of Echo. Snow Westgard, CEO of Humana People to People India. And Sudhanshu Mittal, Industry 4.0 at NASCOM. Over to you, Amit. Thank you. Aditya Pant, I'm so sorry. Yeah, Catalyst for Women Entrepreneurship. All right, over to you, Amit.
Okay, I think we'll have to do a good job, especially after the last panel. So I'm hoping my panelists are up for it. I think we all got coffee that we wanted, so that should help. So as he had introduced, this panel is around, technology for good. I think we all know that technology has played a critical role in creating social impact. I don't think there's a question around that. Be it as simple as how mobile phones have changed lives of millions of people in India. What we want to delve into this panel is, what are sort of, where has technology been creating impact? So we have a interesting mix of panelists, what I call practitioners. So we have a non-profit leader, we have a co-founder of a for-profit organization, and two people who I call enablers, so working with entrepreneurs and non-profit organizations, getting their point of view. We also want to deep dive or at least touch on what are sort of challenges in using technology, both as an organization internally and then for end users or consumers as well. And then also discuss about what the panelists feel future of technology is, right? Technology, as we know, is something that's evolving almost on a daily basis. So where they see sort of technology play happening in the future, and then maybe finally close the session sort of questions that I would ask the panelists around where they see, or where is funding going to come from, right? As non-profit organizations or social enterprises or corporates, where or for example in investment, where does these investments or grant funding going to go into sort of technology for good? And then we can finally open it up for questions. To start off, I think we can do a round of introductions. So we can do the name, organization, and what the organization does, and then maybe a brief on how technology, you see using technology for good within your organization. So I can go first. My name is Amit Anthony Alex. I'm the India Country Director for Upaya Social Ventures. Upaya Social Ventures is an early stage impact investor. We invest in for-profit businesses that create jobs or livelihood opportunities for people in extreme poverty. For us, technology becomes very important as investors. A lot of our funding usually goes in enabling technology for very early stage companies. They initially might be using as simple as Google Docs to Excel, and then enabling technology to further sort of enable their operational efficiency, things like that. So that's how, as an investor, we see technology. And then also from an impact point of view is, how do for-profit companies look at technology in sort of enabling lives of the poor? So that's my background. I will pass the mic on to Abhinav.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abhinav, and I started a company called Echo in September of 2007. The big macro that Echo looks at is that even in 2019, more than 85% of working Indians continue to earn in cash. And this is primarily because 85% of employment in India is informal. And therefore, 85% of the working Indians are earning in cash. And so Echo is a platform which enables to convert cash into digital money. Because once the money is digital, it tends to be a lot more useful and can be put to a lot more purposes than the physical cash in particular. So that's what we do, and we are a network of small entrepreneurs who help people convert their cash to digital. When I say small entrepreneurs, typically these are merchant outlets, so neighborhood kirana stores, medicine stores, people who sell low-cost smartphones, where people can walk into, give their cash, convert the cash into digital money, and then start to use these services. We are a network of more than 1.2 lakh such entrepreneurs who are converting money for more than 7 million walk-ins every month. And so just to give you a sense of our scale, we convert close to about 2,000 crores of cash into digital money every month. And we are not a very rural phenomena. Echo is fairly dense in urban India. And while we are starting to cover urban India well, we are starting to get to tier 3, tier 4 cities and the rural part of the country. Thank you.
So good afternoon, my name is Snorre Westgard, so I work for Humana People to People India. So while our organization works in both health, education, livelihood and financial inclusion, we in the area of technology, we are working in education. You can say technology is not the main purpose, but we use technology to enable our educational model reach out to more people, more student teachers. So specifically, we started working with the government, with different states to implement a teacher training program in 2009, which trains new teachers through the Diploma of Education, working together with District Institute of Education and Training. Currently, we are working in 4 states. So we have developed all the teaching learning material for the curriculum, the 2-year curriculum, and made it in a way so that it demands of the students that they are more engaged in their learning, their theory and practice, and also the study tasks are made in a way that the students can follow their own pace in a logical manner. Now this, using technology and a technology-based platform for student teachers to reach to be able to browse through and select study tasks and activities is very empowering for the students themselves, and then also enables this program to be brought to many more students. So that's, you can say, the main, what we bring to the discussion when it comes to Tech for Good. And then secondly, we also use, in an out-of-school children program, we use assessment system, which then is integrated into the MIS system, and in that way we're able to analyze how out-of-school children can bridge the learning gaps and what works, what doesn't work, and so on. So those are the two examples that we have.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm from NESCOM, NESCOM Center of Excellence for IoT. Fundamentally, we are, our responsibility is catalyzing innovation, which means that innovators who are developing innovative solutions, we provide a platform to them. And the platform is to be able to reach out to different entities like the corporates, as well as in some cases the government departments, to help them with the technology adoption in their operation. Apart from the corporates, and there are multiple solutions by the startups on our platform which are being developed, which have societal impact, like in the area of healthcare and agriculture, and even the environmental related issues, or somebody is like working with, let's say, NHAI to help with improving the toll collections. And we also work with different government departments to help them in doing the technology adoption. An example of that would be the MyGov department from the central government, which is about collecting the inputs after the Mann Ki Baat session by Prime Minister. So when the session is done, after that we have some 5 lakh calls received, providing different inputs or asking questions. Currently, the process of filtering those is manual process. And what we are doing is to work with them to use technology to do the filtering of those calls and identify the inputs being given or the key area where the questions are being asked, so that that input can go into the policy making aspects of the government. This is just one of the aspects which is there. As I said, we have the startups, innovators with us who are developing different solutions in the agriculture area and healthcare area, and I will be talking about some of that later on. That's the short introduction here.
Hi everyone, I'm Aditya Pant. I'm the director at CWE Catalyst for Women Entrepreneurship. We are a Bangalore-based network of organizations that work with 2,650 today women entrepreneurs across the country. We work to enable these entrepreneurs start up and scale up their businesses, working on access to finance, access to networking opportunities, access to loans, working on developing the business skills. And one of the most valued services we offer is actually mentoring. And we really leverage technology to reach out to these entrepreneurs, specifically those who are in what is referred to in India as tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities, because a lot of our mentors are more based in metropolitan areas. So we're running a virtual mentoring program, and we've also struggled with it because we're trying to do a better job of measuring its impact and rolling out some tools within the organization to make sure we are actually tracking it over time. We find a lot of our network of entrepreneurs leverages technology very effectively to get out to the markets they're reaching out to, which are global markets, often are national markets, while they may be in a remote city. Because of infrastructural issues, transportation, etc., they may not be able to tap these markets, by going to the metropolitan areas as often as they would like. But technology has enabled them to really reach out. A lot of people actually conduct businesses on WhatsApp, for example. So we are seeing some really effective use of technology as well. However, there are constraints there, and I can talk a little bit more about that in the discussion.
Sure. No. Let me pick off where you left off in terms of what sort of drove these entrepreneurs, and just building onto that. So one area you're focusing was market development, right? Clearly, you can use technology. So what are sort of other drivers, and we can go backwards now with Sudhanshu and Aditya, that you've seen entrepreneurs use technology, and specifically for your organizations, Abhinav and Snor, why you started using technology, or how technology became sort of a core function in your case. Can we touch base on that, and then we can then move on to sort of challenges.
Sorry, just to rephrase the question, looking at what is pushing people.
What sort of making it necessary to use technology, right, for entrepreneurs or non-profits.
Yeah. So, if I was to say for our, network of entrepreneurs, you have no option but to use technology. Now, it's a bit of a trial and error process for everyone, including us as an organization. I'll freely say this, and I can come more on the challenges later there. But there is no way, for example, we can work with over 2,600 entrepreneurs without using technology. There's no way without tracking what they are doing, what are the kind of areas they're working on, how do you connect them to the right people. So technology becomes very critical for us. You can only run this sort of stuff of Excel sheets, etc. After a point, it just falls apart. I think the same for these businesses. these are businesses that are typically employing between 8 to 200 people, right? So these often start small and they suddenly grow up, and then they realize they need to use technology to manage various things, payroll, accounting, etc., etc. And often they are based in geographies where they don't have access to these services right over there. So they need someone, who will provide them these services through some other tools, using more advanced version of wallets, because they are like also sort of, doing cargo shipping to Poland, for example, of soap nuts. So what do you do there if you're sitting in some remote town in Andhra and trying to do all this business on your own? The challenge that does remain is that there aren't, there aren't programs like what, say, Sudhanshu is doing. Like, let's help entrepreneurs do technology adoption, because the type of business you are, your needs are different. The type of, your own capacity to handle certain technology changes as you grow from one business, one stage of growth to another, etc. So some of these constraints really remain. I mean, I would even say, as an organization, for example, we are rolling out Salesforce, and we are struggling because it's not simply like it's a great CRM tool, but as with all non-profits in India, there are data is hidden, data is everywhere, but nowhere to be found, and it's kept in various formats. So when you start rolling out Salesforce to actually measure your impact, measure how you're working with donors, etc., you suddenly discover that it's going to take you a 6-month long timeline to get anything close to, structuring that within the organization. So we've got the free license because we are a non-profit from Salesforce, but it's been a misery trying to, get the process, get up and started going forward.
Actually, my area is not really a non-profit, but more in the area of how we can help the technology make an impact on the ground. So the entrepreneurs that we work with in our operations on our platform, they are all looking to use the technology solutions for their profit. But to give an example, like I talked about healthcare, so we have an entrepreneur there who has developed a can. So electronic can for the visually impaired. Now it's a very short one, just something in your hand, not the full can type. But then it allows you, or for a person, to be able to scan whatever is there in front of that, any obstacle, and then configure it so that, let's say there is an obstacle 3 feet away from you, you get a vibration. Or you don't want to go that far, then maybe configure it to get a vibration at 1 feet away obstacle. So that's a simple solution which is there, rather than having a bulky one which can be put in the pocket. It's a very small device that he has developed. And then we help them in, let's say, working with the government or the hospitals. We have the program, LHIF, Life Sciences program. So help them in working with the hospitals and other entities who can go and potentially adopt their solutions. In the similar manner, there are others who are, let's say, working in the agriculture area, which is to take the drone images of a large farm and then identify the disease on the plants, and also to be able to make some suggestions that this is the area and this is what is required, so that the next part of after identification is not left to be purely manual. There are other solutions also, somebody working with, let's say, NHAI, as I said earlier, to help them in improving their toll part, so that the operation, the toll plazas, which is one of the big pain right now, if anybody has traveled through the road. NHAI guys, I mean, the problem is not that much paying the money, but the process of paying the money. That's a bigger problem there. So helping them in improving their system, and also working with some other stakeholders by the apartment complex, etc. So, and the other example I gave of MyGov, and then we are working with the Karnataka state government also in some of their areas where they are looking for AI or the analytics technology adoption in their operation. So there are various technologies which are being developed, which are there in the market, and our job is to be able to take the developers to the potential stakeholders who can go and do the adoption in their operations.
Okay, so I represent a non-profit. So and we are trying to find out how can we improve education, the quality of education. And I think the quality of education can be improved through different methodologies, and also improve the quality of teachers. That's the basics. So I don't think that you can solve the educational crisis or improve education just by technology. But technology is an enormous enabler. It gives access, and because now there's so much material online, for example. You know, you have MOOCs, you have all kind of different, what can you say, digital teachers, virtual teachers who teach all kind of subjects. But the students cannot make sense of that if it's not curated and put together in a logical manner, and also that you use pedagogical principles that actually engages the students in the process of learning. We will never solve the educational crisis until students are facilitated, enabled to learn. I mean, to make an effort to learn again and again. And here, technology can be used, as I say, as an enabler. So I think, so when you ask, what drives the use of technology, I think what drives it, it's, as technology develops, then you can see how you can benefit from it to achieve other goals that you have. For example, quality education. In our case, this particular courseware management system that we are using was developed already in the mid-90s. But at that time, the hardware, the computers, access to computers and server and an intranet, and then that was then used to establish this system so students have access to learning material, they could plan and do their study task individually and so on. But today, information is there, much more information is there, it's online, the internet connections are getting better and better every day. So now it's a question of making a cloud-based platform, curate all the existing knowledge and information that is existing on the internet and make that accessible to the students, or in our case, the student teachers, in a logical manner, so that student teachers can actually make sense of all the information they can find online. So I think it's more like, you have to adapt to technology, make the best use of it. But I always see it, and then another point I always have is that, still the human interface is necessary. So technology and, in our case, the teacher have to work together. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Why do we use technology is the question. I'll just go back to what ECHO does. So, we've got close to about, the problem that ECHO is trying to solve is there are close to about 500 to 600 million people here in India who are earning in cash, who need a gateway kind of a solution which converts the cash to digital. Now, if we have 500, 600 million people, ECHO particularly believes that it needs at least 10 million entrepreneurs who will help these 500 million people to convert the cash to digital. Now, this is the problem statement that ECHO is trying to solve in India. Now, it is easy for me to say that, without the use of technology, we just can't get to the scale of the problem that we have in our country. If we want to, and I'll give you a simple example, if we want to get to 10 million, in order to get 10 million entrepreneurs to participate with ECHO, ECHO probably needs to reach out to maybe 30 million who, if we reach to 30 million entrepreneurs, we'll probably get to 10 million entrepreneurs who start to work with ECHO. Now the question is, if 10 million start to participate with ECHO, how do you train 10 million people across the length and breadth of this country to get trained on how do they serve their end consumers? Now, all I want to share with the audience is that for sure, and different businesses look at this slightly differently. For sure, technology is an enabler. However, for the problem statement that ECHO is trying to solve, there is no other way but to live and breathe technology every day. For instance, even, if I have to train somebody sitting in on the same product, let's say if I have to train on the same product, I have to train an entrepreneur in Tripura, in Kerala, and in Jammu and Kashmir. How do you do that? Traveling is impossible. Doing classroom training is impossible. The only ways that technology has enabled us is to go videos, is to go audio, is to go multilingual. And then you really, you create a brand, which people start to associate with, which say that, ECHO is something which is beneficial to us, and therefore a content delivered by ECHO is useful to me, and therefore I will consume it. And my organization is more than 10 years old. So when we started to do, when we started to enroll entrepreneurs to service the end consumers, we would actually go street by street. I started company and we started to, use retail points as a kind of an entrepreneur to start off with. I would personally go. We started to do this in Uttam Nagar in Delhi. So we would go to every nook and corner, every gully in Uttam Nagar, talk to every retailer and say that, would you partner with Echo? But 12 years down, we don't do that. There is a website, it's a multilingual website, there is a sign up button, you click that, and literally then you kind of assist that entrepreneur on every step to get through the entire journey and get started. So at least from Echo standpoint, we live and breathe technology, because the problem statement that we are trying to deal with is humongous scale. And Echo's ambition is that, today we convert 2,000 crores of cash into digital. And sitting in Echo, we really say that, we have not even, touched the tip of the iceberg. And how do we do it 10x in the next 24 months? And there is no other way but to adopt technology for every process that we think about and dream of to scale. Yeah.
No, so Abhinav, I'm going to come back to you with my next question, but I just want to summarize sort of the discussion that we had, especially in terms of what really drives, technology or technology for good. And what I've heard is, one is market development. You can use technology for market development. Then technology becomes sort of the main product or driver, or the main product for solving an issue, so meeting a demand. Then improving operational efficiency within an organization. We've seen technology doing phenomenal work, and then finally sort of enabling scale. That's what technology does. And in India, 1 million is a small number, and scale can be achieved only using technology. So moving on, I want to pick on what you were talking about of, you sort of have two stakeholders, right? One is sort of your vendor, and the other is the person who's going to come with the cash and wants to, from using a technology point of view, and these are not the most tech savvy people. What have been sort of the challenges that you have faced, both from the vendor point of view as well as sort of the person who comes with the cash? I know there must be a lot of challenges, but one is challenges, and what have been sort of key learnings? Because that's, I think, will be useful for the audience.
Sure. I'll share two short stories right at the beginning of when we started. When we started the organization, like I shared, that we would go to a retail outlet, and one of the things that you could do when we started is that a person who did not have a bank account could actually go to a retailer which said it was branded Echo, and you could go to a retailer and say that, I want a State Bank of India bank account, and the person could actually walk out in 2 minutes with a State Bank of India bank account. Now we thought that, the interface for the retailer should be built on a computer. And obviously the first few retailers that we kind of trained in Delhi also had computers. Okay. So we got hold of few retailers who had a computer, and we designed for computers. But as an entrepreneur, I never realized 10 years back, Delhi did not have 24-hour electricity. And all of a sudden we started the pilot, and these retailers could open bank accounts, only to realize that afternoon time, from all the way from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock, there was no electricity in Delhi, in places like Uttam Nagar and geographies that we operated. Now all of a sudden we had to be quick on our feet to say, hey, computers don't work here. And then we started to figure out, then what is it? What is it that what technology should I go with so that, the retailer will start to do it? And then we went on to a feature phone. So imagine we had to think of an interface. We had thought of an interface where opening of a bank account was being done on a computer, a desktop, 10, 12 years back. It moved within a period of 60 days from the launch of our pilot into a feature phone. So we had to rethink the entire thing. Only to tell you the status today, it's that every 1.2 lakh entrepreneurs of ours today is either on a laptop or is on a smartphone. So we today don't build for desktop, we don't build for feature phones, we today build for smartphones. So that for sure, we had to be very quick on our feet to build that technology and to be even faster to drop the technology. Because, we couldn't go and say that, just because we've built for a desktop, even though there is no electricity in Delhi, we will still push this technology only because the retailers would not do it. It wasn't very income generating for them if we wouldn't have been fast in adopting a technology. So this is the story on the entrepreneur side. On the consumer side, I'll tell you that the best thing that, as young entrepreneurs 10, 12 years back, what we did was we wanted to cater to a segment that we did not belong to. Correct? We were way privileged in the society that we live in. And so we had privilege of growing up in Delhi. We went to the best of schools, went to the best of colleges. So while we wanted to do this act of opening up bank accounts for low to moderate income customers who were underbanked or not banked at that point in time, we were not from that segment, so it was very difficult for us to understand. And by the way, in 2007-8, we had already transitioned to the high-end Nokia phones, if not iPhones or Android. We were already on those colored phones that we used to use. And so one of the things that, and Echo was not the first startup that I was starting. So we'd done something before. We had a little bit of a time before we started Echo. And we were already, I knew mobiles, how mobile worked in and out. And somebody very wise told me that why don't you pack your bag and go to one of these villages that you want to service and spend some time there. And this gentleman asked me that, we should ask some questions. You'll go to a rural place or a village, and you would want to ask some questions to your end consumers. What would you ask? And thankfully, an engineer who wants to do financial services, I would have asked the question, how do you want the financial services to be designed for a feature phone that you use? Tell me the answer. Correct? I would ask this question. But the gentleman advised me to ask the question, which was, what do you do with your phone? And this simple question, this change of mindset of not thinking from an entrepreneur or a technologist standpoint, but the standpoint of the end consumer, we changed the question to say, what do you do with the mobile phones? And the advice was that whatever is the answer of that question, use that insight to build your technology. Interestingly, we interviewed 200 people in some places, some districts in Bihar. And there were two answers that were common across 200 people that we interviewed. The first answer, and this is way back in 2007-8, I don't know how many people were old enough to even have phones at that point in time in the audience. However, in 2007, when we asked this question to about 200 people in Bihar, all of them said that we know how to switch it off and switch it on. This was a common thing that everybody knew. Everybody knew how to switch it off. The only other thing which was common across young, old, men, women, literate, illiterate, does not matter who you talk to. The second thing that people knew how to do was to make a phone call. There was no third thing that was common across 200 people. It wasn't that, they knew how to make an SMS. It wasn't that they knew how to change a ringtone. It wasn't that they knew how to play that weird snakes game that was pre-embedded on that Nokia phone. The only two things that people knew how to do was switch it off, switch it on, and do a phone call. So all that we figured out was that people, whether you interview a 50-year-old woman in Bihar in a village who's illiterate, we realized that this woman is number literate. She understands 1, 2, 3, 4. She understood the 3x4 keypad that was there on a smartphone, on a feature phone, and we had to design for that. So all the transactions that Echo designed in 2007, 2008 for our end consumers were only number dialing. It had no alphabets. It had no screens. As long as you could press 1, 2, 3, 1 to 9 stars and hashes and press the green button, you could actually, the way Echo had designed it, you could open a bank account, you could make a deposit, you could make a withdrawal, you could do a remittance, you could buy insurance by number dialing. But the only insight that we had was people knew how to read numbers and knew numbers. So I think those are the two stories. I think we have to be very quick in when we are developing it. And the other is as much effort we can put to actually understand our end consumers and kind of, hope that there is a technology, there is a match that we can bring about. I think that'll be fantastic if people are doing it.
I think those are fantastic insight. Snorre, I'm going to pick your brains a bit. As a non-profit organization, when you started using technology as an enabler, how easy was it to get the organization to use technology? And the other part is technology is evolving very fast, right? So you could have started with a desktop-based education program, and now you use cloud, you use smartphone, and most nonprofit tend to have the same group of people that have been with the organization. So what are sort of the challenges there? And so that's sort of one stakeholder that I want you to talk about. And the second is the beneficiary, right, the students. When you're used to having a teacher come and teach you, and suddenly then you have a technology coming in, sort of what are sort of the challenges?
Yeah, I think that's a very relevant question, because how people accept technology and how they kind of adopt it is always a challenge. And though our organization is kind of tech-savvy in the sense for an organizational purpose, we have always used at least computers. So, all our project leaders, many of our staff, they've always been equipped with laptops and used that for the basic planning, management, that kind of purpose. So in that way, we have never had people who were kind of alienated to use that kind of technology. What and that also meant when we introduced our teacher training program, and to basically first through computers, our own people were quick to accept it. But since we were working in government institutions, and even though these states had actually invested in computer labs, it was a big challenge to get the faculty in the different teacher training institutions to actually use the technology. And I think that's still a big challenge. One of the biggest challenges when it comes to at least institutional level and school level is a lot of training is still needed for people to kind of accept technology. The other thing is, for example, we are using in our out-of-school children program, where we are starting to take it to scale. So we have like 55,000 out-of-school children have been brought through bridge training. And here, in order to make sense of this, of course, an MIS system is very important. And also to kind of, we are using the assessment, as every child has their own assessment system. And these are children who start on all kind of different levels, and they close the learning gaps. So for us to make sense of the program and have enough data to kind of analyze what is happening and develop the program all the time, it's very important that we have, all the children, all the over 50,000, and this will of course increase to lakhs of children, that they are, every identity is there and the progress of the child is entered every week. And here the challenge is more, discipline, not making mistakes. So I think, yeah, the technology gives a fantastic perspectives to really learn and this program and implement this kind of program very efficiently. But again, the training on the ground to ensure, as it needs a lot of training. So again, I think this interface between, the human factor and technology is always there, which we have to really take into consideration.
Thank you. Looking at the big clock in front of us, I see we have only 13 minutes, so I think we should keep some questions, some time for the questions. But I want to finish with sort of one last round of questions. And Nanshu, I think you're the right person to start off with. Where do you see sort of the future of technology for impact coming through, in terms of either sector or focus or themes?
I see the future of technology everywhere. I mean, the place where I'm sitting, I'm seeing a whole lot of different solutions being developed, and in all those different areas, right up to the waste management and then converting waste into something or other. I mean, we all know, I think we should, in general, about converting the biodegradable waste to manure and all, or let's say taking the plastics, this plastic waste, and converting that into a fuel. That also is an area which is actually being there. It's there, and we are working with other companies in that particular area. I mean, I see the impact everywhere. The thing is that technology is there to solve the problems, or the objective of the technology developers is there to solve a problem so that at the end of the day, they are able to make money. Fundamentally, that's the objective, and wherever they see problems, they will try to go and develop the solutions to that. And we have problems all over the place. So I see everywhere, in agriculture, in education, in the healthcare, into the energy area, into your, smart cities area. And smart city is not really the term that I like to use because I don't know what it means, very frankly. I have absolutely no idea what it actually means. So I see it everywhere. And as I said, that the problems, as long as there are problems, there will be somebody innovative enough or entrepreneurs with somebody with the idea of entrepreneurship to come and try to solve the problem and make a fortune out of that. That's how I see it.
Okay, you want to?
So, I mean, if you listen to Abhinav, you go through an entire arc of like technology, right? I mean, like, you suddenly like, when he said, 10 years ago in Uttam Nagar, I was like, oh yeah, 10 years ago, like phones were different. But here's the thing, I mean, if I were to speak only of technology, what we all are talking about is application, right? And one of the failures in the Indian ecosystem has been very little pure technology development. This is where like Israel and some other smaller countries really punch way above their mark. But if I was to not go there, I remember in 2008, like MIT was running these tests on cars, they would sit with people, etc. I saw them and thinking like bizarre stuff goes on. But like if you just read papers like Wall Street Journal in the last 3 years, like smart cars or autonomous cars has gone from being some bizarre Google lab invention to actually being tested and tried out. But the deal is that these are technologies solving very different problems. And I think we have to be more context specific, and this is why I was so delighted to hear, I don't know what smart cities are. I don't know what smart cities are. Like, let's get proper tap water into people's households, right? So I think here the issue is, let's get job creation happening. Like, one thing I did not talk about is one of the reasons we really believe in the power of entrepreneurship and the power of women particularly starting up businesses, because we need this other percentage of India's population to create jobs. You need job creation that puts money into the wallet to use Echo's facilities to access like education and other opportunities. And I feel, technology has to help us get there. We can't evade that big problem that we face, and that, the lack of infrastructure and everything else associated with it. And say, look, these are these shiny new things, and all non-profits are also somewhat guilty, right? We are often driven by donor priorities or something, hey, let's develop a platform. Wait, which platform do you use regularly? Let's not develop another one. So I think is something to be true. I think there is a technology fetish, and we ourselves as organization and in general don't often think through as much as an entrepreneur does. They have no choice. They'll have to close the shop if they don't think through it, right?
What about you both? Where do you see the future?
No, I think if you see how things have developed the past 10 years, and what has really changed is that information is accessible to so many people through the development of the smartphone and better, and internet connection and cheap data. So that's a revolution in itself, and you see all this platform being developed where already existing services are made much more accessible and cheaper to customers through taxi platforms, hotel platforms, whatever. And so I think, no doubt, at one time, if I should look in education, of course, in the future, I see schools and classrooms have access to technology. You have video screens, you have computers for the kids or tablets. I believe very much in computers because students still have to type, they still have to write. We cannot educate a generation who cannot write. So I think, and this is all questions about, of course, economy, access, but as technology becomes cheaper and more available, I'm very positive that we'll see this development, but it will take time.
My personal view to technology, it's a tough one. You're right. We kind of get up every day thinking about, I hope I don't get irrelevant tomorrow. And and one has to be, I think the panel we are spread across the spectrum in terms of how we think about technology. But just from my perspective, I think, what amazes me is that almost things that, for instance, I'll again go back to 2007, 2008, when the first time smartphones came in, my reaction was, this is for the rich here. This is not going to touch my customer segment for a very long time. And guess what? With the blink of an eye, we missed the bus and we had to really work hard to catch it. And so, people who say, I have stopped to say this is not going to work. Because, for instance, if somebody would, I have my brother-in-law gifted me an Alexa 2 years back. It's been sitting in my house and I don't do anything with it. But as soon as my friend's son came to my house, the use cases with which he used it blew my mind off. He started to play games on Alexa. I don't know whether people in the room know that you can play games with Alexa. You can sing a song, you can make it echo, you can repeat Alexa can repeat what you say. You can do bizarre stuff. Now the thing is that boy of 5 years old got to Alexa even before an Android phone. Now Alexa or things like Alexa is going to be second nature to this next, I don't know, maybe they're 4 generations after us or whatever they are. But that's where it is, I think some of us will have to really build for the future. Because it is, and I think the time that it has taken, if in 10 years we've seen this transition to go from feature phone to smartphone, I think it's going to take even lesser time going forward. So I was talking to one of my ex-colleagues who used to work in Echo, now is working for some company in Silicon Valley, and I asked him, what is Silicon Valley now working on? And they were saying that, in Silicon Valley, the new technology that these guys are trying is that why are we typing on a smartphone? They're saying, let's take typing out. Now my take is that if they are successful, it'll take much less time for us to transition into a no typing zone than a typing zone, and we feel very comfortable with it. And some of us will say, some of us would say, what, we were very comfortable with those QWERTY keyboards. Today we are not. And I am 100% certain that tomorrow we would want to leave technology out. And so at least from my perspective, and what we push within Echo is understand technology as well as you can at the earliest, and almost start to play with technology at the first time you've heard it. Because I'm sure that out of 10 experiments, 8 will fail, but the 2 that is going to succeed will succeed so big time that if you're not onto it, there's a very, very big likelihood that you'll go irrelevant.
Thanks. I think the big clock says only 4 minutes left, so before I take questions, let me first thank the panelists. I like to do that before I take questions. So a round of applause to the panelists for their profound thoughts. And we can take questions if there are any. I know. Most clear and concise panel I've ever been on.
And we are ending on time. I think we should get double applause.
We started with 15 minutes time.
Okay. Thank you. I think I saw on the agenda there's tea and coffee outside. I think people are waiting for that as well. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for this. It was really nice to watch. Thank you so much. Could I request you to hand over some mementos to each of the panelists? Abhinav Sinha, Snow Westgard, Sudhanshu Mittal, and Aditya Pant. And one last one, thank you so much, Amit, for conducting the session. All right.
अगर उल्टा दिखा दिया होगा तो